Ilhan Omar faces push to be stripped of committee seats after controversial comments on Charlie Kirk's killing. Representative Ilhan Omar, D-Min, a frequent target of Republican ire and one of the most visible members of the Progressive Squad, on Monday found herself at the center of a new disciplinary fight on Capitol Hill after a wave of conservative backlash over remarks she made in the wake of the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Two House Republicans have filed measures seeking to remove Omar from her committee assignments, and one member has introduced a resolution of censure that would, if adopted, formally rebuke her in the U.S. House and likely result in the loss of one or more committee posts. The controversy began after Omar appeared in a wide-ranging interview in which she said she was mortified by news of Kirk's killing and expressed sympathy for his family, but then pivoted to a sharp critique of Kirk's public record and the political culture that surrounds him. Conservative outlets and several House Republicans seized on lines in which Omar characterized some public defenses of Kirk as a rewriting of history and used blunt language to condemn those defenses. Critics accused her of mocking the slain activist and of blaming the victim, while her defenders said she was exercising the right and duty of a lawmaker to evaluate a public figure's record even as she condemned the violence that ended his life. Republican moves to punish Omar. Two Republican lawmakers moved quickly. Rep. Earl Buddy Carter Argott introduced a resolution to remove Omar from the House Budget Committee and the House Committee on Education and the Workforce, saying in a statement that her remarks openly used language that incites violence toward her political opponents, and that no one who justifies the assassination of someone with different political views than them deserves to sit on a committee. Rep. Nancy Mace RSC separately announced plans to file a privileged resolution to censure Omar and remove her from all committee assignments. Both measures were pitched as immediate consequences for what sponsors described as conduct unbecoming of a House member. On the procedural side, legal and congressional experts note that the House has multiple mechanisms for disciplining members. A member can be removed from committees by a privileged resolution brought to the floor. Censure, a formal statement of disapproval adopted by the full House, likewise can be proposed and voted upon, though it is primarily symbolic and does not remove a member from office. Historically, committee removals have required majority votes in the House, and censure entails a resolution adopted by vote of the chamber. The contours of any specific punishment depend on the text of the resolution and the willingness of the House leadership to bring it to the floor. A familiar partisan pattern. The push to strip Omar of committee roles fits a pattern that has become common in recent congressional cycles: partisan-led attempts to punish high-profile members over controversial speech or conduct. In recent years, the House has pursued several committee removal and censure efforts against members on both sides of the aisle, some successful, some not, turning internal discipline into another arena of partisan combat. Supporters of removal note that committee assignments are a privilege that carries responsibility and that the House has the constitutional authority to police its own members for disorderly behavior. Critics of such moves call them politically motivated and warn they heighten polarization. What Omar said, and how she and allies responded. Video and transcripts of the interview show Omar opening by saying she was mortified by the killing and expressing sympathy for Kirk's family. She then criticized what she described as efforts to sanitize or recast Kirk's record, referencing his past statements and organizing work that she said had been divisive. There is nothing more effed up than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so, she said, according to Select reporting. After conservative accounts amplified those passages and framed them as celebratory, Omar posted on social media reiterating that she had condemned Kirk's murder multiple times, and that her faith teaches the power of peace, empathy, and compassion. Democrats rallied to her defense, arguing the comments were being taken out of context and that criticizing a public figure's record, even in the aftermath of their death, is different from endorsing violence. Some Democratic officials also warned that aggressively pursuing committee removal resolutions could set a dangerous precedent for tit-for-tat expulsions and expulsions of speech. Right-wing accounts trying to spin a false story when I condemned his murder multiple times as fitting for their agenda to villainize the left, Omar wrote on her social feed, according to screenshots posted by several outlets. Republican leadership's ambivalent posture. House Speaker Mike Johnson, RLA, told reporters he had not yet reviewed the resolutions formally and had not decided whether to bring them to the floor. That level of caution signals the political calculation the Speaker faces. Some Republican members and outside conservative groups demand swift retribution, but the Speaker must weigh the arithmetic in the chamber and potential political costs of forcing a divisive vote that could backfire or be tabled. Previous efforts this Congress to censure or strip members of committee posts have sometimes failed because of fractures within the majority or reluctance to escalate retaliation. A volatile national conversation. The episode sits at the intersection of several national debates: the limits of acceptable public discourse, the fallout from political violence, and how public figures' past rhetoric should be judged after sudden, violent events. Kirk's killing, which shocked many and drew condemnations across the political spectrum, unleashed an online avalanche of reactions, from solemn tributes to vitriolic commentary. That chaotic aftermath has made it difficult for observers to separate denunciations of violence from assessments of a public figure's legacy. Omar's critics argue that tone matters when a public figure is murdered. Her supporters argue that she merely offered a political evaluation of a polarizing figure's career while also condemning the act of violence. Wider consequences and political stakes. For Omar personally, a successful move to remove her from the Budget and Education committees would be a material setback. Committee assignments shape a lawmaker's influence and capacity to shape legislation. For House Republicans, pursuing the matter offers political benefits, demonstrating a tough posture toward outspoken Democrats and appealing to conservative voters seething over perceived disrespect to Kirk. For Democrats, an attempt to strip Omar of assignments could be framed as retaliation and used to mobilize the party's base ahead of 2026 races. The episode could also have ramifications inside Minnesota's Democratic politics, where Omar is already a polarizing figure nationally and faces periodic state-level scrutiny. Historical perspective. Censure and committee removals are not new tools. Censure has been used sporadically over the centuries, a formal expression of disapproval that has the effect of public humiliation but not removal from office, while committee removals have in modern times been deployed as a real, practical sanction. The Library of Congress and congressional historians note that while expulsion is rare, the House and Senate have long retained a suite of disciplinary options. Whether the current effort against Omar will reach the statute books or fall short will depend on internal votes and the appetite of House leaders to press the issue to a divisive vote. What comes next? Procedurally, a privileged resolution would typically be offered and then either tabled or brought to an immediate vote. Leadership decides whether to schedule floor consideration. If a censure resolution is filed, it could be referred to the House Ethics Committee for investigation and recommendation, though sponsors can seek quick floor action depending on the resolution's language and parliamentary maneuvers. Congressional observers say the immediate next steps will show how serious the Republican majority is about pursuing formal discipline versus using the episode for rhetorical leverage. Voices from both sides. Republican sponsors insist they are acting out of principle and the need to preserve the dignity of the House. If you mock a political assassination and celebrate murder, you don't get to keep your committee seat, you get consequences, Representative Mace said in unveiling her measure. Supporters of Omar say the effort is a partisan overreach and that the representative has repeatedly condemned violence while continuing to critique the ideas and rhetoric of public figures. Omar's office pointed reporters to her posts condemning the murder and to her statement that she did not wish violence on anyone. A test for the House. At a broader level, the episode will test where congressional norms stand in an era of instantaneous social media amplification and deep partisan polarization. As lawmakers weigh whether to punish one of their own for controversial speech, they are also weighing precedent, whether one chamber should deploy committee removals and censure as regular tools of partisan enforcement or reserve them for the most severe breaches of conduct. For now, Ilhan Omar remains in Congress and in her committee roles, but the coming days, and the choices of House leaders, will determine whether her colleagues move to formally punish her or let the matter dissipate amid the sustained national argument over how to discuss violence and legacy in the digital age.